Today's movement is called Koshi Kiri. Koshi means hip and Kiru means to cut. This is where you turn your hips and thread one leg while in the prone position, therefore cutting with the hips. This movement helps with twisting flexibility, as well as upper and lower body coordination when the arms are pressing firmly into the ground or your opponent. Today I'm going to show you 3 variations of Koshi Kiri that you can practice on your own. The first one is from a plank position, bringing one arm up as you twist your hips. The second one is with both hands on the mat in order to improve your twisting flexibility. The final one is performing the hip cut while on your forearms. Please note that I'm not teaching specific grappling techniques, and while I might reference certain techniques, the purpose of these videos is simply to help you to move better. The better and more efficiently you move, the more easily it's going to be for you to access your grappling techniques. Alright, our first variation today is going to start off in the plank position. Now, there's actually a couple variations of this one in the plank position. I'm going to show you the first one. So we're going to start off just in the standard push-up position here, but I'm going to ask you to place your feet a little wider. Now, in this position, what you're going to do is focus on dropping the heels to the ground, and you're simply going to bring one hand up off the ground. So this is the starting point, just to make sure that you're comfortable in being able to do this. Going back, bringing your heels towards the ceiling. We're going to drop them to the opposite side, and then you're just going to bring one hand up. So going back and forth, first off, doing this. This is your starting point. Once you're comfortable in doing that, you'll drop the heels with weight on this hand and this foot. You'll draw your leg through. So this is where we're cutting the hips through. Bringing it back into this position of the push-up position, dropping the heels the opposite side, pulling a hand up, leg up, and cutting the hips so that our leg threads through. Now, a slight variation on the first variation is where we actually have our legs bent. And so we let our knees float off of the ground. Heels still come to the ground with legs bent. We thread this leg through on this side, coming back to the starting position, dropping the heels, let the leg go through. Our second variation is where we'll be in the plank position. However, we're going to keep both hands on the floor. The reason for this is simply to help improve our flexibility and range of motion for when we thread that leg through. So what I'm going to do again is just keep my hands right where they are and just focus on taking the leg through and then back. One thing that might help you in performing this is when you pull this leg through, pull the other leg back. This is going to give an extra bit of a stretch to this front leg now. Then you can pull the back leg into position, pull the leg back through, thread to the opposite side, pull that leg back. For our final variation, we'll be on our forearms. Now, this also has a few variations of it as well. I'm going to show you the first one. With our forearms on the ground, I like to keep my palms flat on the floor. I have my legs behind me, and I'll shift my heels to the side, pulling the leg through. And you can use your fingers here for balance as you pull this hand up off the floor. Pulling the hand back, you go into this prone position with your forearms on the floor, working to go to the opposite side. Now, a couple variations of this is where you can pull your knees in close, continue doing the movement, threading your leg through, making sure that the heels come down to the ground before you thread the leg. As well, you can try and keep your forearms on the ground. So the first variation where you thread the leg through and then pull that back leg over, bring it back, come to the front, heels to the ground, leg thread, pull the leg back, return the leg, return to the beginning, and do the same thing here as you thread the leg through. Now, obviously, you're going to find that that's going to be a more difficult variation. So what I suggest is always starting with those first variations, gradually working your way up to being able to do this movement. Now to recap what we just did, basically we're just threading our legs side to side, going from an extended position to closer to the ground and working on being able to first open up our body and then close the body, therefore increasing the range of motion when we're doing it. Starting in this position, threading the leg through. Working on a variation where we bend our knees. Working on keeping our hands on the floor. Gradually working on going closer to the floor. Pulling the knees in. Keeping the elbows locked in. And then we can move back and forth between variations of all of these movements. Now, I'm going pretty quickly when I do this. Make sure that you do these movements very slowly. The slower you can do it, the better. It's going to help you to make sure that you're doing them correctly and safely. All right, now it's time for you to step on the mat and give it a try. Leave a comment below letting me know how it goes.